He saved 14% per year, almost $2,000 a year in interest charges. I'm touring around the United States in an RV, which is where I'm at right now, and we're currently just outside of Richmond, Virginia, and we're going to be traveling to 21 more states, not only teaching about personal finance, but we're interviewing folks, we have presentations that we're giving, we're, breaking down this taboo around talking about money. Again, really break down debt more. So what we're talking about debt, we're talking about credit cards, right? Those pesky little plastic things that you carry around in your wallet or your purse that are really easy to slide. You probably have the number and expiration date and the 3-digit code on the back memorized or saved in some places if you're like most Americans. We're going to talk more about student loans. How many of you guys have gone out to school and you've had to take student loans out? I'm sure that's a large number of you. So we're going to talk more about student loans and understanding the flexibility and how that debt works. We're also going to talk about car loans. This is a heated topic of debate. Plenty of folks in the debt-free community think you should, follow Dave Ramsey's words and save up your own money and go purchase like a 10-year-old car, or if you have a car loan, aggressively pay it off so that you don't have a car payment. We're going to evaluate that option and what that happens. And we're also going to take a look at mortgages as well. And we want you guys to better understand what options you have with all of these. And in particular, I'm going to show you guys a couple of really valuable ways to get out of credit card debt. Two in particular that you may have not thought about before. I've been posting recently about Dave Ramsey. I know the debt-free community is really focused on getting rid of debt. We were speaking with someone earlier today who said, listen, her biggest goal is just paying off this number, this giant dollar amount that she's added up that includes all 4 of these here, specifically the top 3. And she's saying, look, I'm throwing as much as I can at these things. They're looking at like debt snowball or debt avalanche, like what's the best way to make these payments? Well, we're going to take it back to basics for a little bit and spend a little bit of time just making sure that you guys know about some very important factors when it comes to your debt. Let's go over some of those factors. Okay, you ready? Number 1, you've really got to know the interest rate on your debt. Again, the interest rate is how much the institution, the bank, or the credit card company, or the car lending, or the mortgage, lien holder, folks who are giving those loans out, they're going to charge you a specific interest rate. And you want to be aware of what that number is. Look, these rates usually range from anywhere from 0%, through the single digits, into the double digits, and sometimes as high as 30% or more. And you've got to understand that that might mean that you're paying a significant portion of your monthly payment is going towards interest. That means you're just paying extra money for having this debt on your balance sheet. And in that instance, yeah, we definitely want to understand what debt is most toxic. And at the same time, the debt that might be not as toxic might just affect us in some of these other ways. So let's review this. What's number 2? Number 2 is the cash flow requirement. Another way of thinking about this is, what is your minimum monthly payment? As your debt builds, the minimum that you have to pay to your credit card continues to increase. But with something like a student loan, your cash flow is much more flexible. You can choose to pay this back. Some folks even have IBR as an option, income-based repayment. For folks who have graduated and maybe their income isn't as high as they wanted it to be, and they're worried about having a really high monthly student loan payment, well, it's really important to understand that you can actually figure out how to lower this number and provide more flexibility into your world. We're going to talk about cash flow requirements, because one thing that you folks need to realize is, just because you have a minimum payment, whether you overpay that minimum or just pay the minimum is a decision that you're in charge of. Who else is? No one. You get to choose whether or not you overpay, and if you do choose to overpay, you're in control of how much you overpay. And let's add another factor. You're in control of when to overpay, because once you make a payment that's more than the monthly minimum, can you ever call that company back and ask for that money to be returned to you? No, good luck. You know what I mean? If I make an extra $500 payment above the minimum to my car loan, but then I get a flat tire the next day, and I need that money back, that car loan company is not going to repay me the money that I paid them. It doesn't work that way. So I want to make sure that I'm in a financially safe position, just like I'm sure all of you watching want to make sure you are as well. Look, the third factor that you really want to understand is the term, aka this is the length of your loan. Mortgages, for example, you guys may have heard, mortgages can be 30 years or longer. Well, the longer a term out is, usually the lower the minimum monthly payment is. A car loan is a great example. When you go out for a car loan, they're going to ask you how many months you want for that car loan. You know, some folks will take it out for 36 months. Their minimum monthly payment is going to be pretty high. Others will take it out for 60 months. That's 5 years instead of 3 years. That would be a lower minimum monthly payment. And so understanding the relationship of not only these three factors, but guys, think about this for all of you watching. Which of these debts do you have? What kind of interest rates do credit cards have? Shit, some of these can be up in the 20% or higher range. What kind of interest rates do student loans have? These are oftentimes as low as 2%, up to somewhere around 7%. Some are higher, but you can really get something in that range right now if you look at refinancing. Talk more about that. Car loans, some of these could be as low as 0.9%. That's less than 1%. Versus some of these might be up to 5%, 9% or higher. If you have poor credit, the worse your credit is, the higher the interest you're going to be paying on these loans. And mortgages, what kind of interest rates do we have here? You know, anything from the 3% range or lower up to around 5% right now. That's kind of the range that these mortgages are sitting in. What a drastic difference among all of these. Being able to understand your debt better, specifically which of your debt is most toxic, by reviewing the interest rates that you're paying on your loans. That's something that each of you guys should do. If you think about this, the monthly minimums here are pretty high based off of how much debt they have. And why is that? In addition to number 3, these are on what's called a 30-day revolving calendar. So what that means is every single month they're looking at that debt and expecting you to pay it off. That's the term of that debt. You know, when you buy a PlayStation or a vacation on your credit card, the assumption is that that credit card is a 30-day loan. You should pay it back before the end of that month. Because if you don't pay it off in full, the amount of interest that you're going to get hit is pretty darn significant. You'll end up overpaying for the things that you're purchasing. We don't want that to happen. With student loans, we talked about the cash flow requirements. Some of them have income-based repayment, depending on what income levels you're in. But the other thing here to look at is whether you're at a 10-year or a 20-year term. Let's think about this for a second, guys. How many students, when they graduate, their student loans after that 6-month deferment period are automatically put into a 10-year term on student loans? And some people don't even know that. So they're graduating and they get a letter from the student loan company and it says, hey, your minimum payment is $1,000 a month. And they end up living with mom and dad because they can't afford to move out and they can't save and they're stressed out, and it's really a panic that ends up taking over their lives. Well, what if they just changed it to a 20-year term? In that example, that $1,000 payment might drop to $550 or something like that. If that person kept wanting to pay $1,000 a month, could they? Yes. But now, if instead of paying the instead of paying the $1,000, they can pay $550 on a 20-year, and then take that extra $450. And this is really important here. And not just spend it, but save it. So on the day that they would have made a $1,000 payment, instead they're doing two things. They're paying $550, and then they're transferring $450 to a savings account. Maybe one like Ally Bank, that we're big fans of here on the Money Pro Tour, where they're currently paying 2.2%. You know, we've been customers with them for almost a decade. And let me ask you this. If at the end of that 1 year, that the person was only paying $550 instead of the $1,000, at the end of that 1 year, if they saved that $450 every month, they would have $5,400 at the end of the year in that savings account, plus interest. If they wanted to take that money and pay it directly to the student loan at that time, could they? Yeah. If they wanted to only pay an extra $1,000, could they? Yeah. If they want to just keep going and then at the 10-year mark, make an asset shift and take money from the bank and pay off what's left, could they still be student debt free after 10 years or sooner if they want to? Yes. See, the whole thing about cash flow is realizing that if you go from $1,000 payment per month and you find a way to lower it down to $550, like in the example we were talking about, you've got to make sure that the other $450 does not get spent. It must get saved. And that's what we teach people how to do, how to be disciplined and organized with their cash flow, with their bank account system, because most Americans will just end up spending that extra $450. And in that way, Dave Ramsey ends up helping folks get out of debt and thinking that that's just going to be enough. Hey, pay off all your debt, throw everything at your debt, live on rice and beans, don't focus on asset building until your debt is totally paid off. The challenge there is that it doesn't teach folks how to be disciplined in saving and managing their cash flow. And that's a skill that every American needs to not be overwhelmed by. It needs to be normal. It needs to be something that's taught from a young age or practiced and adapted with a coach to help you improve it. That means knowing how to organize your bank accounts and set up transfers the right way. That way you can save and build up money and not touch it while also making these payments down. We're not done yet. Let's think about car loans. What kind of cash flow requirements here after their term and length? Again, it's flexible because your loan could be 3 years or it could be 7 years. And that's really going to affect your monthly minimum payment. So being able to review that is really important. Mortgages. This is another great example of how whether it's a 10-year or a 20-year, for mortgages, it's whether it's a 15-year or a 30-year. What you're really determining is, what do you want your minimum monthly payment to be? With a 30-year mortgage, you're going to have a lower minimum monthly payment than with a 15-year mortgage, obviously. Does that mean that you have to wait 30 years to pay off your mortgage? No. Unlike that episode of The Office where Michael Scott was buying a condo at 45, and when he realized that the mortgage he thought was a 10-year mortgage was actually a 30-year mortgage, and Dwight says, man, you're going to be paying this thing off in your mid-70s. You know, it's just like, no, that's not true. What many folks realize is that when there's only like 7 years left on their mortgage, they have a ton of money in the bank that they've been saving, assets that they've been building up, investments that they've been putting money into, where if they just want to make a lump sum payment and pay off that mortgage in full, you can. So I hope this was helpful here. Let me just erase a little bit and make some more room here. Again, from a cash flow standpoint, we want to make that really clear. It's not about, do I overpay my debt or do I pay less and spend the difference? It's, do I overpay my debt, or if I just pay the minimum, is there something else I can do with that freed up money that provides more pros and less cons to my financial well-being? See, that's a whole different way of looking at it. When we examine these three things, I want to share with you guys a couple of ideas. One we posted about recently on the Money Pro Mantra series. And if you haven't seen these yet, check them out on my Instagram page. Every couple of posts, we put up a Money Pro Mantra on one of 4 different sections in your financial world. That includes debt paydown, loans and liabilities. But we also talk about cash flow management. We talk about protection and insurance. And we also talk about asset building. And one asset that is really worth mentioning here and how powerful it can be to potentially help folks out is if you're stuck in a situation where you're paying high interest rates, there's an option to take a loan out of your 401k. Maybe you've been working at this company for a long time. You see yourself staying there for a while. Maybe you've done a good job of taking advantage of the match from your employer. You know, hey, maybe when you put in 5%, they put in 5% too, and maybe you learned about that on your first day on the job, and years have passed, and you look at this statement, and crap, maybe you might have 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 in your 401k if you're in your late 20s, 30s, and you see your 40s, and you see that money building up there. But if you're still juggling credit cards, let's examine a situation here. Ready? Let's erase this. Let's imagine that there was a time period where Steve, we're just going to use him as a fake person here, Steve the smiley, okay? As much as he loves smiling, Steve got laid off. and it sucked. He wasn't ready with his emergency fund, or he had some, but it got used up. And it took him a lot longer than expected to get back into work. And so he ended up building up some credit card debt during that time. Lucky news is now Steve's back at work, and he's got a job that was paying even more than he was before. And he's been working there for a few years, and he still was unable to pay off that credit card debt from so long ago. It's like it was charging him this high interest, and he didn't know that he could do anything about it. And then he realized, hey, I've got, $40,000 in my 401k. And let's say that Steve is still sitting with $15,000 on 3 different credit cards. A Visa, a MasterCard, and a Discover. This one's got 5,000. This one's got 5,000. This one's got 5,000. They each have hefty minimum monthly payments per month that Steve's in control of managing those. And he hasn't used any of these cards in a while. He's just trying to pay them down. Maybe he's attacking each of these with $300 a month. Okay? So he's paying a total of $900 a month from his checking account to try to pay down this debt. But it's getting charged 20% interest on each of these cards. And pardon my French, that frickin' sucks. So what he realized after chatting with a Money Pro expert is that since he has $40,000 in his 401k, he can actually take out a loan for up to 50% of that balance. Wow, so that's 20 grand that he could request a loan for up to that amount. And he realized that the interest rate was only 6%. The term of the loan could be flexible enough that if he puts it out over 72 months, his minimum payment, ready for this one, I'm gonna put this in a different color so you can see it better. His minimum payment now is only $250 a month for this 20 grand loan over that 7-year period. Stay with me here. Did he end up saving significantly in an interest rate? 20% down to 6%. He saved 14% per year. Wow, which is almost $2,000 a year in interest charges right away, just by doing that transaction. His monthly payment, if it's $250 a month, well, he used to pay $900. If Steve still wants to pay $900 down to this guy, can he? Sure, he could just set that up as an automatic payment. Pay it $900 a month, the same cash flow you used to pay, and your debt's gonna be gone sooner. But if instead Steve felt trapped by this $900 and he wasn't able to save as much, and we know how important asset building is, what if maybe he set up an automatic payment here for $500 a month to his 401k loan, still paying it down aggressively to get rid of this debt, but now he's freed up $400 a month to be able to put into an Ally savings account, so that a year from now he's going to have $5 grand more in savings than he had before. Look, what are the cons with 401k loans? If you leave your employer, sometimes this loan becomes callable, which means you have to pay it back. Well, that might mean you have to take a hardship withdrawal on your 401k. You have to pay taxes on that amount of money that you have left to pay off. You have to pay taxes on this money eventually anyway, so it's just a matter of whether it's now or later. So you would pay taxes on it and an additional 10% penalty. In this case, that would be at most $2,000. Well, he just saves that much in a year in interest by doing this. If he feels like he's going to be at this company for a while, he found a good spot, maybe it's a great option for him to look at. It doesn't require anything with his credit score. In fact, it's going to help his credit score because he's going to be able to pay off all 3 of these cards. Should he close the cards? No, he should keep them open because they're great for his credit history. They've been around for a while, he's been making payments on time, and now he's paid them off in full. So in fact, his credit score is going to shoot up by doing this transition on how to get rid of his debt. We hope this was helpful. This is how, as a money pro, we're able to look at the different financial products that you have in your life and show you how to make smarter decisions with them so that you can live your life with more freedom. You can save better, you can pay off your debt better, you can still enjoy your lifestyle, and you don't have to resort to eating ramen noodles and beans and rice like some Grandpa Dave, Dinosaur Dave might be telling you, okay? You can still enjoy your life and have fun and work on getting rid of your debt. Ask me more about how, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. If you haven't yet, check out the YouTube channel for the Money Pro Method. You know, hit that red button and subscribe to it. Give us a pound with the likes and the thumbs up. And yeah, shoot us a message if you have any questions. We're going to have more videos coming at you soon. Keep a lookout. Peace!